Don't skip any part of this story. Bond with it till the very end. It's a journey of unexpected twists, powerful emotions, and life-changing realizations. This story will stay with you long after it's over. In a quiet neighborhood, a park was filled with the sounds of children laughing, birds chirping, and the soft rustling of trees in the breeze. It was the kind of place where families came to unwind, to let their children run wild, and where the elderly walked their dogs for some fresh air. But on this particular day, something dark was about to unfold. As the park bustled with life, a figure moved in the shadows. He was not out of place, but something about him did not quite fit. He walked with purpose, his eyes scanning every person and every corner, like he was looking for something or someone. And then, his gaze landed on a puppy. The puppy was small, golden, with big, trusting eyes. He was playing on the grass with a little girl, chasing after a bright red ball. His tail wagged so hard it looked like it might lift him off the ground. The girl laughed, her voice pure and innocent, not knowing that her world was about to be shattered. The thief, a man with a scruffy appearance, watched from the bench. He did not seem to care for the park, nor the people, just the little puppy that seemed so unaware of the danger creeping closer. The thief knew what he was doing, but he did not understand the depth of what he was about to steal. Without a sound, the thief got up from his bench. He moved quickly, not looking back, his heart beating fast, not from fear but from excitement. This puppy would be easy to take, he thought. Easy money, he thought. He crouched low, his hands ready to snatch the innocent animal and vanish into the crowd. No one would notice. No one would care. It was just a puppy, right? But what the thief did not know was that this was not just any puppy. A few meters away, a K9 officer sat on a bench, his eyes fixed on the scene. His name was Rex. He was a strong, determined dog, trained to protect, trained to serve. But there was something about him that made him more than just a trained dog. He had been with his partner for years. They shared a bond that went deeper than most human connections. The officer, Sergeant Harris, had raised Rex since he was a pup, and Rex had always been by his side. They had been through thick and thin together, fighting crime, saving lives, and becoming a family in a way few could understand. Rex was not just watching the park. He was watching over it, silently, with eyes sharp as knives and senses keen beyond anything a human could comprehend. He saw everything. He saw the way the thief was eyeing the puppy. He saw the way the puppy's tail wagged as he happily played with the little girl. And Rex understood. He understood the danger the puppy was in, and he would not let it happen. The thief had almost reached the puppy when Rex sprang into action. The K9 unit was not just about sniffing out drugs or chasing down criminals, it was about something far more important. It was about loyalty. And loyalty is a powerful thing. Rex leaped from the bench, his body a blur of muscle and speed, as he ran towards the thief. In an instant, the thief felt something heavy land on his chest. He stumbled backward, startled and terrified, but before he could react, Rex had already clamped his jaws onto the man's arm. The thief screamed, trying to shake off the massive dog, but Rex held tight, his eyes burning with determination. "Let go of me, you damn dog," the thief shouted, but Rex only growled, his grip firm. Sergeant Harris had already reached the scene. His heart was racing, not out of fear, but from adrenaline. He had trained Rex for this very moment, but what he did not know was how much his partner had come to mean to him. Rex was not just a K9. He was family. And Sergeant Harris was not about to let anyone harm his family. "Let him go," Sergeant Harris commanded, his voice stern but calm. He was not angry, he was not yelling, he did not need to. Rex's presence was enough. The thief, now on the ground, looked up in fear. He tried to break free from Rex's grip, but he could not. Rex was too strong. Too determined. "You're under arrest," Sergeant Harris said, pulling the thief to his feet. But it was not the thief that mattered to Rex in that moment. It was the puppy. The little golden ball of joy who was now crying, his tail tucked between his legs. He had no idea what had just happened, only that his world had been turned upside down. And for Rex, that was enough. The puppy's fear was enough to fuel his every move. Sergeant Harris, sensing the puppy's distress, walked over and gently lifted him into his arms. The puppy, shaking, pressed his tiny head into Harris' chest, as if seeking comfort. And in that moment, everything seemed to slow down. The park, the people, the world, it all faded away. It was just Harris, Rex, and the puppy. A moment of peace in the middle of chaos. Rex stood by, watching the puppy with caring eyes. He was not just a dog. He was a protector. A guardian. And he had done his job. He had kept the puppy safe. But there was more to this story than just the moment of victory. There was a bond, a connection that went beyond the surface. Sergeant Harris could feel it in his heart. He had never realized how much Rex meant to him, not just as a partner, but as a friend. Rex had saved this puppy, but in doing so, he had reminded Harris of something important. He had reminded him of the power of loyalty, of the strength that comes from standing by someone's side, of the unwavering love that can exist between a human and a dog. As the police arrived and took the thief away, the puppy's owner, a woman who had been sitting on a nearby bench, came over to claim her dog. She thanked Sergeant Harris and Rex, tears of relief welling in her eyes. "I do not know what I would have done without you," she said, her voice trembling. But it was not just Rex who had saved the day. It was the connection. The unspoken bond between a man, his dog, and a puppy that was destined to be loved. And in that moment, it became clear that no matter what happens in this world, there are forces far stronger than crime. There are bonds that cannot be broken. There is loyalty that can never be stolen. As Sergeant Harris and Rex walked away, the puppy safe in his owner's arms, they did not need words. They did not need thanks. They had done what they were meant to do. They had protected what mattered most. And as they left the park, Rex glanced back, his eyes filled with quiet pride. Because sometimes, the greatest victories aren't the ones you expect. They're the ones that happen when you stand by someone, when you protect something with all your heart, even when the odds are against you. And that, my friends, is the real meaning of loyalty. As they walked through the park, the sounds of the world began to settle back into their normal rhythm. The laughter of children, the chatter of families, the rustling of leaves, it all seemed to return to a peaceful harmony, as if nothing had ever been out of place. But for Sergeant Harris and Rex, everything had changed. Something precious, where Rex had acted without hesitation to ensure that the puppy, and everything it represented, was safe. "Good boy," Sergeant Harris murmured, reaching back to scratch Rex behind the ears. Rex responded with a soft growl of contentment, his tail wagging slightly. The drive home was quiet, but it was not uncomfortable. There was a sense of peace that filled the car, an unspoken bond between the two of them. They had been through so much together, but today had been different. Today, they had saved more than just a puppy. They had protected hope, innocence, and the unshakable belief that no matter what, they would always stand by each other. When they arrived at their small home, Sergeant Harris let Rex out first. The dog bounded to the door, his excitement palpable, as though he knew the day was done, and it was time to rest. Inside, Harris removed his uniform and set it aside, but it was not the work of the day that filled his mind, it was the moment with the puppy. The way the dog's eyes had searched for comfort in the arms of his owner, the way the thief had been powerless against the strength of Rex's loyalty. Later that evening, as Harris sat on the couch, Rex curled up at his feet, his head resting on his paws, the two of them shared the quiet peace that only those who truly understand each other can experience. There were no grand gestures, no need for acknowledgement. They had done what they needed to do, and that was enough. They did not speak to each other, they did not need to. The bond between them was too deep, too ingrained. They shared a silent understanding, a quiet strength that came from years of working together, of saving lives and protecting what mattered. Every step they took was a testament to that bond, a bond that had been forged not through words, but through actions. Sergeant Harris felt a weight lift off his chest as they reached the parking lot. It was not just the relief of the puppy being safe. It was not just the joy of having captured a thief. It was something deeper, a sense of fulfillment. Because in this world, it was not always about what you could take, but what you could give. And in that moment, Sergeant Harris knew that he and Rex had given everything they had to protect a life, to keep someone's world from falling apart. Rex, walking beside him, looked up at his partner, his eyes full of trust. He did not need praise, he did not need recognition. His job was simple, to protect. And that was enough. The quiet pride that Rex carried in his posture was a reminder that sometimes, doing the right thing doesn't require words or accolades, it just requires doing what's needed, when it's needed most. As they reached the car, Sergeant Harris opened the door for Rex, letting him hop into the back seat. He paused for a moment, looking out at the park one last time. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the place where the thief had tried to take. But what Harris did not realize in that moment was that what they had done went far beyond just protecting a puppy. They had shown the world something important, that loyalty, love, and courage could never be stolen. The bond they shared was invincible, built on trust and respect. No thief, no danger, no darkness could ever take that away. As Harris looked down at Rex, the dog's eyes meeting his with a quiet understanding, he felt something stir deep within him. It was a sense of gratitude. For the bond they shared. For the trust they had built. And for the knowledge that, no matter what the world threw their way, they would always stand together. The events of the day had been a reminder that sometimes the greatest strength lies in loyalty. In the moments when we put everything aside to protect what we love, when we go to any length to ensure that what matters most is safe. It was not just about saving a puppy. It was about something more. It was about the power of connection, the power of standing by someone, even when the odds are against you. And so, as the night grew quiet and the world outside settled into darkness, Sergeant Harris knew that he was never truly alone. With Rex by his side, he would always have someone to trust, someone who understood the value of loyalty, and someone who would fight alongside him, no matter what came next. But what Harris did not realize in that moment was that what they had done went far beyond just protecting a puppy. They had shown the world something important, that loyalty, love, and courage could never be stolen. The bond they shared was invincible, built on trust and respect. No thief, no danger, no darkness could ever take that away. As Harris looked down at Rex, the dog's eyes meeting his with a quiet understanding, he felt something stir deep within him. It was a sense of gratitude. For the bond they shared. For the trust they had built. And for the knowledge that, no matter what the world threw their way, they would always stand together. The events of the day had been a reminder that sometimes the greatest strength lies in loyalty. In the moments when we put everything aside to protect what we love, when we go to any length to ensure that what matters most is safe. It was not just about saving a puppy. It was about something more. It was about the power of connection, the power of standing by someone, even when the odds are against you. And so, as the night grew quiet and the world outside settled into darkness, Sergeant Harris knew that he was never truly alone. With Rex by his side, he would always have someone to trust, someone who understood the value of loyalty, and someone who would fight alongside him, no matter what came next. Sometimes, the greatest victories come not from battles fought alone, but from those we fight alongside. And in that moment, Sergeant Harris and Rex knew that they had won the most important battle of all, the battle for each other's hearts. And nothing could take that away. As the night settled in and the world outside grew quiet, Sergeant Harris leaned back in his chair, his gaze drifting to the window. The stars above twinkled softly in the clear sky, their distant light a reminder of how vast and unpredictable the world could be. But in this small corner of it, in this quiet home with Rex at his feet, everything felt just right. It was not always like this. There had been moments of chaos, moments of fear and doubt. Times when Harris had questioned everything, the work, the dangers, the sacrifices. But in the stillness of this moment, those worries seemed to fade away. Because he knew that, no matter what, he had Rex. And with Rex by his side, he knew they could face anything. But there was still something in Harris' heart, a feeling he could not quite place. It was not just the relief of saving the puppy or catching the thief. It was not just about the bond between him and Rex, though that bond was stronger than anything he had ever known. It was something deeper. Something more personal. Harris had spent so much of his life focused on the job, on the duty, the responsibility, the mission. He had sacrificed relationships, friendships, and even parts of himself for the work. But today, in the face of that thief, in the sight of that innocent puppy, he realized something. Loyalty was not just about following orders. It was not just about protecting others. It was about what you believed in, what you stood for, and what you were willing to fight for. As Harris' thoughts drifted, Rex, sensing his partner's stillness, nudged his hand with a soft paw. Harris looked down at him, meeting the dog's gentle eyes. Rex's presence, as always, was a reminder of the truth that had been with him all along, the power of loyalty. "You always know how to make me feel better, do not you?" Harris murmured, scratching Rex behind the ears. The dog responded with a low, contented growl, his tail thumping against the floor. It was in these quiet moments, when the world was still, that Harris understood just how much Rex meant to him. Not as a partner in law enforcement, not just as a dog trained to protect, but as a friend. A constant. A companion who had been there through thick and thin, never wavering, never questioning. Just loyal. Harris had always known the importance of loyalty in his line of work. It was what kept him and his fellow officers safe. It was what made them a team. But today, he had seen loyalty in a new light. Loyalty was not just about standing by your partner in the line of duty. It was about standing by them when it mattered most. When the world seemed unfair, when the odds were against you, when you felt like everything was falling apart, loyalty was the one thing that could hold you together. And Rex, with his quiet strength and unwavering devotion, had shown him that. Rex had reminded him of the simple truth that, no matter what, he was not alone. As Harris sat back in his chair, feeling the weight of the day lift off his shoulders, Rex curled up beside him, resting his head on Harris' feet. The two of them, side by side, shared a silence that spoke louder than any words could. The world outside may have been full of chaos, full of darkness, full of things beyond their control. But inside this small home, in the presence of his dog, Harris knew one thing for sure: no matter what came next, they would face it together. Because that was what loyalty was. And it was something that no thief, no danger, no fear could ever take away. And as the hours passed, and the night grew deeper, Harris closed his eyes, feeling the steady rhythm of Rex's breathing beside him. He knew that tomorrow, there would be more challenges to face. More struggles, more uncertainties. But there was also something else, the unbreakable bond of loyalty that would see them through. And that, in the end, was enough. In the quiet of that night, with Rex by his side, Sergeant Harris realized that the greatest gift in life was not what you could take, it was what you could give. And loyalty, true loyalty, was a gift that could never be stolen. The world would always have its thieves. But as long as Harris had Rex, he knew there was one thing they could never take away. And that was the strength of their bond. As the days passed, Sergeant Harris and Rex settled back into their routine. The world outside had returned to its usual pace, the hustle of daily life continuing as if nothing had changed. Yet, for Harris, everything felt different now. The events of that day, the way Rex had saved the puppy, had somehow reshaped his perspective. It was as if he had gained a deeper understanding of what truly mattered in life. Every time Harris looked at Rex, he saw not just a working dog, but a partner who had shared every moment with him, every victory, every loss. There was a sense of gratitude in Harris' heart, a quiet recognition that Rex had given him something more than loyalty. He had given him a sense of purpose beyond the badge. Rex, for his part, never changed. He was the same steadfast companion, always alert, always aware of his surroundings. His loyalty was unwavering, as it had always been. But even in his silence, in his quiet gaze, Harris could feel the bond growing stronger. It was not just the job that tied them together anymore. It was something deeper, something rooted in the shared experiences of trust, courage, and love. One afternoon, as the sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over the park, Harris and Rex were out for their usual walk. The park had become their place of peace, their place of connection. People passed by, some stopping to smile at Rex, others simply enjoying the quiet beauty of the day. Harris, however, was lost in thought, his mind drifting back to the events of the past week. It was hard to put into words, but something inside him had shifted. He had always known that loyalty and duty were important. But the way Rex had instinctively acted to protect the puppy, the way he had never hesitated, there was a purity in that. A purity that had rekindled something in Harris. A reminder that sometimes, the most important things in life weren't about what you did, but who you did it for. Harris glanced down at Rex, who was walking beside him, his steady steps matching Harris' own. The dog's eyes were fixed on the path ahead, always aware, always alert. But when their eyes met for just a moment, something passed between them, an understanding that needed no words. "Thank you, Rex," Harris said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Rex looked up at him, his tail wagging gently as if in response, though he said nothing. He did not need to. In that simple, shared moment, everything was understood. They continued their walk, and Harris thought about the future. The world was full of uncertainty. Danger was always lurking, always waiting for its moment to strike. But with Rex by his side, Harris felt an unshakable sense of security. Not just in the sense that he had a strong and capable partner, but in the belief that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Later that evening, as the stars once again took their place in the sky, Harris sat on the porch, Rex resting by his side. It was in these quiet moments, away from the noise of the world, that he found peace. The hum of the evening, the chirp of crickets, the soft rustling of the wind through the trees, all of it felt like a reminder that there was still goodness in the world. Forged through years of partnership, was something that no one could ever break. It was the strongest thing in the world. In the end, Harris understood that the greatest treasures in life were not things we could hold in our hands. They were the relationships we built, the loyalty we offered, and the love we gave. And as long as he had Rex, he knew that the world would always be a little brighter, a little safer, and a whole lot more meaningful. Because loyalty, true loyalty, was something that could never be stolen. It was the one thing that would last forever. As the days turned into weeks, Harris found that the sense of peace he had felt in those quiet moments with Rex began to seep into every part of his life. The world outside still buzzed with its challenges, calls for duty, unexpected dangers, the weight of responsibility, but now, with Rex always by his side, those things did not feel quite as heavy. They did not feel as insurmountable. There was strength in knowing that, no matter what happened, they had each other. One afternoon, as the two of them patrolled the streets of the city, Harris caught sight of something that made his heart stop. A small child, no older than 5 or 6, was playing near the edge of a busy street. The child was laughing, oblivious to the oncoming traffic, running in circles with a joy so pure, so uninhibited. But Harris' instincts kicked in before his thoughts could process what was happening. "Rex!" he shouted, his voice sharp with urgency. The puppy they had saved that day had gone on to live a happy life with his family. The thief had been caught and would face the consequences of his actions. But what stayed with Harris was not the justice of the moment, nor the sense of victory. What stayed with him was the reminder of what mattered most, the bonds we build with others, the loyalty we share, and the love we give freely, without hesitation. Rex, as always, lay quietly by his side, a silent sentinel watching over his partner. Harris reached down and scratched Rex's ears, the dog's contented sigh filling the air. In that moment, Harris realized that loyalty was not just about following rules or fulfilling a duty, it was about something more. It was about being there for each other, no matter the cost. It was about showing up when it mattered most, even when the world seemed uncertain or cruel. Loyalty was not just a duty, it was a choice, a promise that we make to those we care about. And it was that promise that kept the world turning, one act of love and devotion at a time. And as Harris looked up at the stars, he felt a quiet sense of peace settle over him. No matter what came next, he knew that he and Rex would face it together. That unspoken bond of loyalty. Rex, who had been walking calmly beside him, immediately shifted into action. Without hesitation, the dog bolted toward the child, his strong legs carrying him swiftly through the street. Harris followed closely behind, but it was Rex who reached the child first. The dog's powerful frame pushed the child out of the path of an oncoming car, his fur brushing the child's skin as they tumbled to safety on the sidewalk. The car screeched to a halt just inches away. Harris' heart was racing, his breath quick. For a moment, everything felt suspended in time. The child was safe, thanks to Rex. But it was not just about the child. It was about the same thing that had driven Rex to act with such courage before, the unwavering loyalty, the deep instinct to protect, to safeguard what was precious. The child's mother, who had been standing nearby, rushed over with a mix of relief and panic in her eyes. "Oh my God! Is she all right?" she cried, her voice trembling. The child, still shaken, clung to Rex's fur, her face pressed against his side. The dog, sensing her fear, gently nuzzled her, as if to reassure her that she was safe now. "She is fine," Harris said, his voice calm but firm. "Thanks to Rex." The woman turned to look at the K-9 officer, her expression full of gratitude. I do not know how to thank you. He saved her, he saved my baby." Her voice cracked, emotion breaking through the panic she had been holding back. Harris smiled softly, his hand resting on Rex's head. "It's what he does. He is a good boy." The woman nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. "I will never forget this. Never." And for the first time, Harris realized something profound. It was not just about being a good officer, about following the rules, about fulfilling a duty. It was about moments like these, when everything could have gone wrong, when a life could have been lost, and yet it was not. Because loyalty, because love, was stronger than any danger that could come their way. Rex had not only saved a life that day, he had reminded Harris why he did this work. Why he chose to protect, to serve, to stand by the people who needed it most. As the mother and child walked away, still shaken but safe, Harris stood silently for a moment, looking down at Rex. The dog was already moving on, his duty done, his focus returning to the next challenge. But Harris knew that this moment would stay with him. It would be one of the moments he would carry with him for the rest of his life. "Good boy, Rex," Harris murmured, reaching down to give his partner a well-deserved pat. Rex wagged his tail, his eyes full of quiet pride. He did not need recognition. He did not need anyone to tell him how great he was. He had done what he was trained to do, what he had always done, protected, served, and loved. That was enough. As they continued their walk, Harris thought about the thief from that day in the park. He thought about how easy it had been for the thief to steal something so small, so innocent. But in the end, it was the thief who had lost. Not because of the law or the punishment, but because he had stolen from the wrong people. People who, like Rex, knew that what mattered most could not be taken or broken. What mattered most was the love, the loyalty, and the protection that was offered freely and without hesitation. Harris smiled to himself. He had always known that his work was important, but it was moments like these, moments when loyalty and love overcame the darkness, that reminded him why he chose this path. It was not just about the badge. It was about the bond he shared with Rex, about the lives they saved together, and about the truth that, no matter how much the world tried to take, there were things that could never be stolen. And as the sun set, casting long shadows across the city streets, Harris walked on, his loyal K-9 partner by his side. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever obstacles they would face them together. Because that's what loyalty was about. It was not about being perfect. It was about showing up, day after day, for the ones you loved, the ones who needed you. And in that, Harris found a quiet, steadfast peace. Because true loyalty, like Rex's, was a force that could never be defeated. It was the one thing that could never be stolen.